Heidi ho! It's show number 103 in our third year broadcasting The Last Angry DJ. My name is Mitchell KC Hill. The KC comes from when I used to be a broadcaster back in the 70s and 80s. Great time for radio, not so much today. And this program talks about what it was like back in the day when radio was king. And we also talk about what things are doing today. Now, I guess today would be the internet, podcasting, vodcasting, and the state of radio as we know it, and entertainment. We kind of cover a broad schedule of things, as it were. And we love your questions. And here to tell you more about how all that works, Mr. Alexander Knight, our producer and TD, technical director. I'll get it out. Let me just spit it out here. And here he is, Alexander Knight. Go, man, go.
Good to be here, Mitch, for episode 103 of The Last Angry DJ. If it's your first time being here, this is the show that intersects old media versus new media. We're not going to just talk about the broadcast industry. It's kind of a blanket term, catch-all phrase, if you will, that covers terrestrial radio, podcasts, YouTube, all that sort of stuff, because we got to talk about all those platforms. And I am joined by Mark Giuliani, who knows a little bit something about radio. What's going on, Mark?
How is everyone? I hope Mitch is getting through the blizzard of 2026.
It's Snowmageddon.
Inches here.
Snowmageddon.
18 inches. That's what they're telling us.
That's
nothing
what they
up
call
in Canada, is it?
Yeah. It's what they call a nor'easter. And I haven't figured out where it gets that name because it seems to me that the storm is coming from the south and moving up the coast. So how does that become north and east? I'm very confused.
The wind is coming from the northeast direction, a nor'easter.
But the storm is moving up from the south. So
Walt will tell us.
Okay, Walt, Walt Palmer, your chief engineer and soothsayer.
And a meteorologist.
Okay, and your fluffer.
He is a man of many hats. He sometimes.
I see that. Well, Mark, as you're referring to, there is a lower third there. It's telling people to get on ask.thelastangrydj.com. Ask your questions. We're going to carry a number of different interesting subjects today that relate to the industry as a whole and as a whole in your day, maybe. Who knows? But yes, we're experiencing bad weather on the eastern part of the United States. Probably mid-Atlantic region is what we like to refer to it. So Delaware, New York, Pennsylvania, especially eastern Pennsylvania. And Delaware's getting like at the center of this thing, so we'll watch it. 18 inches, I think. Last I asked. Hold on just a second. Alexa, how much snow are we getting?
It's snowing right now. You can expect about 12 inches.
It's down to 12 inches now, so there you go. Thanks, Alexa. Appreciate it. You know, you can get different voices for that. Apparently, you can get Samuel L. Jackson as one of the voices on there, and he's very colorful in his language. It's like expletives included. And I snuck it in on my mom when she was alive, and she said, "Mitch, I don't know what's wrong with my digital doohickey, but it's cursing at me." And I said, "Really? And whose voice?" "Some big black man is yelling at me." I said, "That's Samuel L. Jackson. He does it. He's a classic." So anyhow, that's some of the fun stuff that's going on. So since we have that Ask the Last Angry DJ thing up there, questions are rolling in. So why don't we kick it off with one of those questions? Mark, why don't you get things started here on the show?
All right. Yes. Okay. Walt Palmer from Lewis, Delaware. While watching the East Coast blizzard of 2026, I am enjoying the Olympics closing ceremonies. Why are all the on-camera reds, which are flags, uniforms, costumes, etc., showing up as pink on my multiple devices and platforms? So we chatted back and forth with him before the show, and it's iPads, his phone, the web, over the internet, anything. Even when he turns on the TV, he's getting things that should be bright red as pink.
Look at Alex. He's as pensive as I've ever seen him. So, Alex, you can start us out because you have the pensive look on your face.
That's really, I'm glad you mentioned iPad because, the iOS devices are known to have some of the best color quality in terms of displays. Apple takes great pain to calibrate their displays. So if it's not showing up right there, then that leads me to think that there's something either at the broadcast end of the chain there. I mean, there's so many. Here's the problem. There's so many different pieces of the signal chain. So the stuff that's been getting broadcast from that's coming over from Europe into NBC into the United States, like we don't know where in the pipeline the color is getting screwed up, but it's obviously getting screwed up somewhere.
How do skin tones look, Walt? I mean, that would affect red being affected. It would affect your skin tone too. And I'd ask the stupid question. I'll ask the Gump question. Maybe the stuff is pink. Have you thought of that? Maybe the flags are pink. Maybe the scarves are pink. That's always a possibility.
This could all be storm related because all of the feeds come back to Connecticut, where NBC has their sports center.
Yeah, but if they're receiving the signal, the color grading should be consistently. And any broadcaster, and Walt, you're a broadcaster, they run color bars and stuff like that to set everything up. They run a vector scope on a waveform, and with a color chart on it, something like. Hold on a second, I'm reaching down for it. It's usually under my desk. When they put one of these things up, before they send the broadcast. They lock in all the colors correctly. And that's a color chart that I got from B&H. You can see the gray, the 80% gray that's over on this side, and white as we know it. I mean, if you have a color chart, then you can lock in all those colors, and they should be correct. If you're using an Apple TV, if you go into settings and down the system, one of the options on there is color bars. So you can check your TV to make sure your TV is correct, so that the stuff. But the fact that it's on everything just leads me to believe it's a giant conspiracy. Maybe there's a protest.
Well, here's another thing.
He says the skin tones look natural.
Yeah,
well, that's a problem.
That's weird. And Vic Hernandez brings up a good point. He's asking, is the NBC logo color correct? Because that has red in it, right?
So
Peacock has a lot of colors in it. Yeah.
So Walt, my question is, can you report back? Is the NBC logo correct? Because if that's off, there's something really wrong.
And they got to be running that on a bug on the lower third. So that should be there, not full screen.
Walt has also explained the term nor'easter is a low pressure system that typically rolls up the East Coast, with wind rotating counterclockwise, making the wind typically from the northeast.
And they don't they call it a cyclonic bomb? It has a name like that. It has a weird name, like a bomb.
Yes.
Weather-wise.
Yes, you're correct. I do know that the word bomb is in there somewhere. Snow bomb.
It's just throw it in there just to scare you that much more. All right, we don't know, Walt. We seem to think that the color grading should be done at NBC Central. Seems to me that the guys in the Connecticut Master Control for NBC would have seen this and made adjustments. But if the problem is that the item actually is pink, if they adjust that, it's going to mess with their logo and people's color, skin tones, and all kinds of other mayhem ensues. So we don't have an answer to your question, but as the show continues, if things should change, please let us know. This is a live show. We're ready to pick up on anything live that's happening.
I'm going to see what Mickey Makachor in the Philippines has to say. He usually replies pretty quick.
It's kind of late back there.
I'll report back if he answers in the next while the show's still on. I'll report back.
Yeah, Mickey's a smart man. He should be able to figure it out. Maybe he's got control.
The bomb describes increasing winds by 35 miles an hour within 4 hours.
Yeah, well, we have 40-mile-an-hour winds, and the storm really is not going to express itself until later tonight. So tomorrow morning is going to be a mess. Or nothing. That's the weird thing about weather forecasting. Sometimes they claim 18 inches, it's going to be snowmageddon, and you wake up and there's nothing on the ground. That's what happens here in the U.S. I think the computers that they use to predict the weather sometimes disagree. There's like one in there's a California one, and then there's another one in England that apparently it does, or Europe, that does a better job of predicting these storms. You're going to say something, Mark?
I was going to say the one thing we will know tomorrow morning is that there won't be any toilet paper, milk, or eggs at the grocery stores.
Have you seen that?
Why is that?
It's people go absolutely apeshit crazy for things that they consider important. It's always milk, eggs, and bread. I don't know why, because what are they making with that? French toast? Is it like a French toast weekend?
I think
I don't
it's
know.
conspiracy. I think the weather companies own the grocery stores.
Yeah, I already paused that particular idea, and it's craziness. All right, let's
We
move
got another
on.
question.
Oh, we got a question? Hit the other question, then we'll go into our first rundown.
All right. Let's do it.
Okay, here's the other question. It has to do with the Olympics. It's a strange question, but we're going to read it. There are reports that there was a shortage of 10,000 free condoms within 3 days of the start of the Olympics. Who knew?
Really?
When I was in
do we have to cover this?
When I was in Sarajevo and Banff, we didn't have that problem. The biggest issues we had in Banff were that moose were eating the triax cables. So he brought it around.
Well, he's really showing his age there because triax used to be used to connect up all the cameras to a site. It was all point to point. So if you went to a big sporting event and you had those big old cameras in the HDs, no, that was before HD, so it would be SD. Triax was a single cable that had the ability to communicate asynchronously back and forth. So you could get your headset, your IFB, everything else back on it. And apparently it gets moose and squirrel riled up. And, hey, Rocky, watch me eat this Triax. Again.
Well, I mean, they have that problem with fiber, too. The insects like to eat up the fiber cables.
I wasn't aware insects were into fiber.
No, ants. The ants eat up the fiber cables.
Okay, well, get it off the ground. Fly it up in the air. Go wireless. I don't know. Whatever they have to do. So they had a problem. I don't understand the condom comment. The Triax makes sense. Maybe moose did eat them. Who knows? Sarajevo, is it like many mooses there?
I think Banff is where the moose were.
Okay. All right. There we go. All right. Thanks for that thought-provoking question. We appreciate that. Let's move on to our rundown here. Apparently, TuneIn Radio, which is one of the biggest internet aggregator of radio stations, now is in a partnership with Nissan. And I thought, as the question goes, let's talk about why that's significant. I mean, it's just one car dealer, or I guess that includes Infinity. If it's Nissan, it means Infinity.
Yeah, very well could. Yeah.
Yeah, it's involved. In-car listening for radio is a big deal because over the air, it's always been fairly simple. You could get it. AM is questionable right now, but FM certainly is still available in most cars, not all cars, but in most cars. And the idea that radio stations that are in the TuneIn world and being, streamed out over the world, as it were, means that you could probably hit the button and pick up one of the TuneIn stations. I have TuneIn as an app. In fact, I ran into a problem. I got in early on TuneIn when I had an internet radio station, and I had a couple of clients that were being broadcast as a stream, and I got them all into TuneIn before things got tight on TuneIn, as it were. But I don't know if the statistics, but TuneIn probably has more individual radio stations associated with them than even iHeart's app, which is a very popular app for a lot of radio stations. So, Mark, what do you have as a comment? I mean, again, this is helping to promote radio listening in your car, specifically your Nissan or your Infiniti.
I mean, it's just it's a joint marketing relationship where Nissan's trying to get into the dashboard.
Okay, but what I guess they're saying is that they're making it easier to get into your car. In other words, you don't have to go searching for the TuneIn app and then go search. It's probably a hot button somewhere in the app that works on a Nissan.
So on the dashboard, they're building the app into the dashboard. So I've seen this a lot in General Motors vehicles have for a long time offered both Apple's CarPlay and whatever Google's system is called.
Android,
but they have another name for it in the car.
Right.
And for whatever reason, some of the newer GM cars have dropped the CarPlay. And from what I've read about it, it's because Google gave them a much better deal in return for all the information about the people using those cars. So it's giving them information they can use for advertising and everything else.
Can't they
my
have both?
question is, who's paying? So obviously someone's paying for this. Or is there going to be cost passed on to the consumers? Is this going to be like a thing where it's like when you buy a new car, you get 3 months of Sirius, but then you got to start paying a subscription fee, or is tuning going to be totally free forever in your car?
Tune in is free.
Is it right? Oh, okay. I thought there was some kind of premium.
Well, I think there's two versions. I think there's the free version where you get the ads, or you can pay to have the ads removed. But I think what's interesting about all of this, and where radio can hold its own, is that if you buy certain vehicles, they will come with Wi-Fi, but you have to buy the Wi-Fi through. Hang on, we're being shown something.
They do have a premium version of their service.
Right. Yeah.
There's the list of things that it provides. Less ads.
It's out of focus.
It's in focus now.
Live, I can read that. Less ads, college sports, a whole bunch of sports related features in there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess it just makes it easier. Same thing on your remote. For your TV set. I've got a big fat Netflix button on my Sony remote. You know that Netflix is paying the money for that because you can hit that and boom, you're into Netflix.
Right.
The idea being it's a simpler way to get to something without having to navigate some kind of a grid that has a bunch of different streaming services on it.
But it's just more opportunities for everybody to make money. So whoever's making the car is making money because you have to pay them a monthly, in theory, you pay them a monthly fee for high-speed internet to be able to link all of those apps back to the internet. So whoever the manufacturers is making money, and then all those apps are making money through the manufacturer of the cars because they're getting all that information about you.
In a Nissan, is it the car that provides the internet, or is it attached to your iPhone or your Android phone?
I don't know about Nissan, but I do know that if I take my phone and use its hotspot and try and connect the car to the phone, or a third-party device. Let's just say I have a hotspot. I connect the car to that hotspot. It drops it in favor of its own device. And if I am on my phone and I say connect to the Wi-Fi and I connect it to my hotspot, within a minute, it's dropped my hotspot for the car. Even when I tell my phone the car does not exist. If I say that hotspot does not exist, within 30 seconds, that hotspot's back on my phone.
So there's a chance that they're actually manipulating your use of the internet.
Yes.
Once you get in the car, it's Nissan world,
real. At some point in time, there's going to be a lot of people looking into this because I don't think it's right.
So you think there's some kind of government intervention that might happen because of them?
I would not be surprised if
it's not free trade when you eliminate all the competition in favor of your own service.
Right, exactly, and that's what's happening. If I try to connect to my hotspot in my car, the hotspot connects for about 30 seconds and then it goes back to the car's hotspot, so that Chevrolet or GM or whomever can, solicit money for their Wi-Fi.
Wow. When are they going to start running political ads in the car? You get into, hey, we're glad you chose Nissan. Did you know that we want you to vote down the tariff between the,
people
Japan
are going to riot if that happens.
Well, I don't think they will riot. It's in some ways you could say it's subtly happening now because your whole dashboard lights up with the icons of the manufacturer of the car. As soon as you come near the car, unlock the doors, you get this big display of whether, whoever the brand is of the car. So they've already started that process.
I hacked mine in my Benz. It has a picture of Barney Fife from Andy Griffith. Comes up like that. So I don't want the Mercedes logo showing up there because I think it seems unpretentious if that happens. Although I did put one the logo on the front that lights up and turns colors. Figuring I would.
And that's not That's not pretentious. Hey, look at me. Look at what I'm.
Well,
driving.
I'm deciding what's pretentious. I'm the style setter. The trend setter.
Right.
So let's have the blinky car with the.
You feel like you feel like you want to be in control. It's empowering.
Yeah. When I bought a expensive Ferrari back in my 20s, which I did, and I'll brag about it, and I had the same one. It was a 308 GTSI, the same one that was in Magnum PI at the time. TV series that featured a Ferrari, just like the one I had. And I thought, hey, why don't I get a vanity tag on the back of the car that says Magnum? And I thought, I'll be just like the TV show. So I was in the dealership, and I was talking to the sales guy, who's a friend of mine, and I said, I was thinking to myself, I'm going to tell him I'm going to put Magnum on my vanity tag. And he says, oh, by the way, if you get a license for that car, don't put Magnum on the back. It's just plain stupid, and you don't want to be an asshole. So I know I was going to do that.
Was that
way?
Your Ferrari I saw 20 years ago driving down Route 1 with a Magnum on the license plate?
No, mine said Hill 1. That's what I thought was kind of cool.
Mitch, anyone ever stick a blade in your wheel while you were driving that car?
Surprisingly, nobody messed with the car. And I used to park it right in front of. I used to do like Wednesday night discotheque. I do like Wednesday Motown night at the local club, and I used to park it like right front and center. And the bouncers would watch it for me. But I'll never forget running into somebody who came up to me and said, "Yo, are you Mitch Hill? That's your Ferrari?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "I heard you were an asshole. Now I know you're an asshole." So that was what the car did for me. It just happened over and over again in various. Nobody abused the car, and I was constantly, paranoid of it. Not to get off subject, but I was constantly paranoid because it was my only car, and I would take it to go get a big gulp at 7-Eleven, and I would park it like almost behind the building. Was afraid it'd get a ding on it or some other nonsense would happen to it. And it was like, having a small child with you at all times.
Well, you should. You know what? You worked hard. You worked hard for it. You got to where you were, and you shouldn't feel bad about buying something nice for yourself.
I had completely different motives, Alex.
What was that?
In all seriousness, I was in my 20s. I figured, let me buy this now when I really have the right to own a really nice sports car, before I'm in my 50s and 60s, when it looks like I'm going through male, whatever they call it.
Mid-age crisis.
Exactly. And I said, I can do a lot more at 20 than I can when I'm 50 or 60. And you know what? I was right back then. So anyhow, I'm not bragging about it. I'd love to have the car again because they've gone way up in price. So now I just drive a rather sedate little Mercedes with a color badge on the front that spins and does weird stuff. Anybody else want to jump in on the tune-in issue? Any comments coming in on event chat about that?
No, I think we should move
question?
on. Let's move on to the next topic.
Vic likes tune-in. That's in the comments.
I do too.
Let's
it works
move
great.
on to radio stations. Are they still using vinyl, and why does it matter?
This question is perfect for Alex because I know he's a fan of vinyl. Alex, do you respect the vinyl?
I absolutely do, but the question is, do radio stations still feature vinyl? And I know very, very few do. There are certainly some that do. I know I've been to college radio stations that have that, but it's become, let's face it, it's become a very, very niche thing. Radio stations have long since switched to digital playback systems, playing back WAV files. They're fairly sophisticated with lots of automation. So no, I don't. I think 99% of radio stations are all digital. You're not gonna be. It's fun to play records, but I don't think anyone's making money on the radio playing back vinyl.
Yeah. Well, two things. One is, does vinyl sound better on the radio? That's my the first question. And the other part of it is, are they just bragging that they're cool and that they have vinyl? Therefore that means they have classic, or they're concerned about the recording. So why don't you answer that part of the question? Is it going to sound better on the radio?
Well, that's an interesting one, Mitch, because certainly in my hi-fi setup, I can absolutely hear the difference, and I know that records sound less clinical. Just analog sounds less clinical than digital. There's nothing wrong with digital, because certainly with streaming services, they've gotten a lot better. You've got Apple Music that can play back not only lossless. Actually, Apple has, I just discovered this the other day after testing a DAC, that Apple has multiple tiers of audio quality. So they actually have one step above lossless. So lossless is 24-bit 48 kilohertz. If you find an album that is tagged with high-res lossless, that can be either 96 or all the way up to 192 kilohertz sample rate. But that said, I've done A/B comparisons with my records playing the same exact album. And it's funny because I've talked about this before. Vinyl records have a lot less dynamic range than digital. That should sound worse, right? Except it doesn't. So to answer your question, do vinyl records sound better on the radio? They'll have a different character, but with all the compression that happens at the transmitter, honestly, it's hard to say if you're really going to hear any kind of difference.
So it might sound better.
So much competition.
But they ruin it.
Yeah,
they ruin it by processing the heck out of it. Here's what's interesting about the question or the point that's being made here. I lived with vinyl and analog for many, many years, and digital kind of came along, and there was initially a big backlash against digital. Now, part of that was because there weren't very good DACs or digital audio converters out there. In fact, when CD players first came out, they had really horrible Nyquist filters in them that were very brittle sounding and, as you say, clinical. They attempted to reproduce higher frequencies, but they just really managed to clip and sound crunchy. And harmonics were handled very poorly. So, the thing about vinyl and analog is that it's a roll-off of higher frequencies and harmonics and things like that. It's not a a digital world where it goes all the way up and then it just stops, because that's the actual limit of the Nyquist filter is decoding it, or the oversampling. That's why they do oversampling, by the way, so they can avoid those harmonic issues. If you get used to hearing things that were done in the analog world, then you listen for analog artifacts. They become natural sounding to you. Your ears are analog, and you hear things a certain way. It's like the same thing with recording tape, something that used to be used a lot. A lot of the albums that we listened to from the 70s and 80s were mastered on 24-track tape machines, some of them using Dolby, some using DBX noise reduction. But the tape itself created an analog compression that you didn't jump up and say, "Hey, I hear that analog compression on the tape." It's just that it was a natural byproduct of using that particular medium to record and store the information. There was a time where I think Masterphonics did it. They did direct-to-disc recordings where they would get an orchestra or a band, and they would go right to the pressing of they cut the disc without going through the whole tape process. And it still had a natural, nice sounding analog sound. So I don't dispute that analog sounds better, because that's a very subjective term to use to refer to it. Do I prefer one over the other? Yeah, I really do. But go ahead.
And Mitch too. The other thing I was just going to show, and I don't have a fancy telestrator to do this, so I'm going to do this with Paint on this other computer. But with CDs, a lot of people don't realize this, but there's a steep filter. So most people know that 20,000 kilohertz is the threshold of human hearing, right? At the upper range of high frequencies. But CDs have a steep drop off after 20,000 K. And so you might be thinking, well, Alex, that doesn't matter because humans can't hear beyond 20,000 kilohertz. But there actually is an impact. There can be information that exists beyond 20 kilohertz that can actually change in very subtle ways how things sound. So if you're going to put this kind of brick wall filter with high frequencies here, you're actually not really getting the full pictures. And this is why actually DSD audio is a superior format, and it is actually superior to PCM, pulse width modulation. Pulse code modulation.
Right.
It's superior to that because it is the closest, what many consider, to analog audio doesn't have these same kind of issues that a like if you master audio 16-bit 44.1 kilohertz to a disc, you've got this steep filter and you don't have the resolution and dynamic range, right?
And that's why you hear about oversampling and things like that, because it allows that curve to be a little less steep. Because it's oversampled. So what a lot of times they'll do is that they'll sample it at a higher frequency so that actually they're manufacturing some of the sounds that weren't really there. But if you talk to somebody that knows how to play a piano and what they're listening to live, they're playing it on a Bosendorfer or something really nice. There are a lot of overtones that go right up to that 20,000, maybe a little bit beyond. And how the recording gear handles that overage determines what kind of problems you have. And for a recording that is going over up to let's say 20,000, and with analog, it's always a gradual, not super steep change of a level. With digital, it's just a brick wall. It just hits a brick wall, unless it's 32-bit and it's got all that extra goodness there. By the way, while we're talking about this, good time to jump in with your own questions. Ask.thelastangrydj.com is the place to go. We love to hear from you. We know that vinyl and analog and digital are definitely fun areas to listen and talk and ask questions, and we will do our very best. Some of the stuff is subjective, and a lot of what Alex and I are talking about, there's some science to it, but there's also some subjective aspects to it. Because I would submit, Alex, that a lot of us audiophile nuts like us that understand what's going on there on the curves and the decks and things like that, we know how to listen for things. We know how to listen for jitter and for clipping and distortion. Distortion, I think, is something you have to learn to listen for. And I can hear distortion above a certain point, not really super fine distortion, but and some higher frequencies that claim you can't hear over 20,000. I used to be able to hear something. I don't know what it was. It was like a pressure or something, but I would swear that I taught myself to hear things that weren't there. So it's a very subjective area. Analog and vinyl and things like that just seem to handle it all much better. And a lot more like the way your ears work, and that therefore it's not quite so brick wall hitting kind of stuff. Mark, you want to get in on this? You look anxious.
Well, I don't know about the audio quality as much as you guys do, but it just seems that from a business point of view, that automation killed the turntable, because you now have voice tracking. You have the files as digital audio files can be played and automated through computers, so that someone working at a radio station as an announcer can voice track a show in an hour, even though that show might be 3 or 4 hours long.
Yeah, well, that's part of it. But the other part is just the continuity of a computer playing back the audio elements on a radio station, stuff we used to do with records and tapes and other stuff. It's all in the computer. I would say that in the beginning, because hard drive space was expensive, and if you had something that had, 300 megabytes, that was a heck of a lot, or a 9 gigabyte drive, that was a whole lot back in the day. Right. So that's why they started compressing, and the early automation systems had to try to get more material on in a certain amount of space. So they went to MP2, MPEG layer 2, and then they eventually, some of them even went to MPEG 3. Which, again, it's a compressive format. If you were running MPEG 3 at, say, 256, not 128, you're probably compressing about 4 to 1. So you got 4 times as much space on your hard drive. And the average person probably didn't even hear the artifacts of an MP3 or an MP2 or all the other various lossy formats that were out there. I guess FLAC and AAC eventually came along. The problem here is that now hard drive space is so cheap that you don't need to use compressive formats for your for storing information on your automation or in your home player or on your iPhone. You really don't need to do that because of the cost. So you should be eliminating these things, but people just don't care. They didn't mind. MP3 was popular because it was convenient and it worked. It was good enough, as Alex would say. And it was destroying the quality and expectation of connoisseur listeners. You know, you go into a high-end hi-fi shop, and the word MP3 is a bad word. You know, and today it's useless. It's not even needed. You don't need to go there. You might as well be doing a linear wave file.
Do you think that the average person can hear the difference between an MP3 and a wave file once it goes out over a broadcast? And then they hear
tough.
it in their car or they hear it in their home stereo.
It's
going
tough.
Through the airwaves. I don't think that
because of what the radio station does to it before it even gets out there. I mean, if the station, first of all, the record company's mastering the songs with barely any dynamic range. They're compressing the crap out of it because they want it to be loud, which has nothing to do with quality and dynamic range. And then the radio station does it on top of that because radio did that in the beginning. That's how radio used to compete. We're louder on the dial than the competition. They did that by compressing the heck out of the audio. And eventually it just becomes noise to me. And if you're sensitive to quality sound, I know Alex is probably kind of gritting his teeth right now. You just can't tolerate that kind of treatment. But it's the way they're mastering things nowadays. It's the way the radio stations compete with each other. Maybe someday a radio station will wake up and go anti-compression and make it more open and natural. Listen to some older recordings of songs. I listened to Crazy the other day, which is an old classic song. What an amazing song, the way it's recorded, the quality. You hear everything. You hear every bass note. You hear the pluck on the strings of the bass guitar when it plays. A Last Train to Clarksville. You know, I mean, I don't care what it is. It was back in those days. It's right. Today, I can't take it. I can't take it anymore. It drives me nuts. Alex, you should jump in here.
I agree, but you know what? There's tons of great recorded music now. You just have to look for it. I think there's bad recorded music in any era. You know, and in a lot of the microphones that that were used on classic recordings, Mitch, 50 years ago, they're still around now. There's no reason for that. You just need a skilled engineer, and I would actually say that not all records are mastered super aggressively either. So it just depends. I mean, yes, you can say that most pop music is mastered fairly aggressively with lots of compression, not as much dynamic range, but that music may not call for the same kind of dynamics that, say, jazz record or a folk song, or you know what I mean? Like sometimes that stuff needs, it's whatever it is required of the type of music. And look, the artist also has a say in it. That artist might say, hey, this doesn't sound right. There's just something about it. Can you juice it up a little bit, make it a little more exciting? What does that mean when they say more exciting? Sometimes it means more compression, right? Yep. It's just the way it is. Like you're hired to do a job. And if the client is telling you it doesn't sound right, then it doesn't sound right. What are you going to do? Tell them, no, you're wrong? We can't add 10 dB of compression to your voice?
I've been in a studio with a known rock band, I won't say who, and the artist says, why does our song sound so much better on your radio station? This is before they started doing this super hyper process. This is like in the 80s. And I said, because we have our own way of treating the music to give it compression and leveling in such a way that it sounds good. And I'm like, wow, we want some of that. So what are you going to do? All right, I got a question from Vic.
Let me bring in Vic's comments. Except for synthesizers, Vic Hernandez says, sound originates from an analog source. It's not possible to digitally capture and recreate the full range of audio overtones. Comment.
That's hard. He's not wrong. It is very challenging. You can get awfully close, I think, but I think, a prime example of this, Vic, and to everybody watching right now, to everyone on the show right now, look at an orchestra. If you've ever heard an orchestra live, I don't care how good the recording is, and I've heard some great orchestral recordings. There is nothing that exists right now that can fully capture the emotional impact of hearing a live band in person. It's just physics, and maybe someday we'll get there, but I can't see anytime soon in the next 10 years that we're going to be able to reproduce something like an orchestral recording and make you just feel that impact, not in the same way. They've got, you can get closer with some high-end systems, right? Like I've heard some very expensive hi-fi systems. I'm talking $250,000 speakers.
Yeah, they're out there.
Through $100,000 worth of electronics, you can get some pretty magical experiences.
Have you guys heard of the Brooklyn
Duo? It's
Duo?
not the same.
The Brooklyn what?
Brooklyn Duo.
No.
They do cover songs that are rock songs, and it's a pianist and a cello, and it sounds really nice. Go to YouTube and look up Brooklyn Duo.
All right.
Well, it's also a feature. It's like processing and compression and limiting and stuff. For some people, it's part of the character of the music, and they go for it, and that's their prerogative. They're artists. They're able to do what they want to do for it. So it's interesting. But thanks, Vic, for your input. I prefer stuff a little more natural. But think about the way guitars sound. An electric guitar. It is purposely distorted to sound like an electric guitar. If you heard a guitar straight off the body of the guitar with a pickup without the processing distortion, it's going to sound weird. It just sounds, hey, Alex, you play a guitar. Am I wrong?
No. I mean, I do play guitar. You're right.
Yeah, so you know that they distort the sound to sound the way we're used to hearing what an electric guitar sounds like.
Sure. Yeah.
It's not like an acoustic guitar. It's a little bit different.
No, it's totally different. I mean, because if you pick up an electric guitar and just strum it, it doesn't really sound like much. You gotta. No. It's not designed to resonate like an acoustic instrument. That's designed to do that naturally. Like you pick up a beautiful Gibson J45 or a Hummingbird. I mean, those guitars sound absolutely incredible, just acoustically. Right, but that's what they're designed for.
And you're enough of a player that you can tell how what kind of strings they're using, or how it's wound on the body, and what kind of pickups they have.
Well,
can you hear all those changes?
With strings, I mean, there's so many manufacturers that make guitar strings. It's really hard to hear. If you were to tell me out of a lineup, which strings are D'Addario versus Elixir versus Gibson versus Martin versus some other brand, there are going to be very subtle differences. The metallurgy is slightly different, in particular, especially with acoustic guitars, because you can get acoustic strings that are formulated differently for either brighter or warmer tones, right? Like 80-20 is a very common combination for guitar strings. So it really is personal preference. I can hear differences, certainly. I have my own personal taste, but that's for me. I can't really tell another guitar player, well, you should get this because that's what I like, right? You just have to develop your own ear for it.
Taste.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Mark, any other comments coming in?
Nope. I think it's time to move on to weather coverage via radio versus the internet.
Well, let's see. We got Snowmageddon headed our way here in the Mid-Atlantic region of the United States.
We got nothing here.
Yeah, it's like, come on, it's panic time. And of course, all the grocery stores are, they've got lines around them. Gas stations actually have lines around them. Everybody's like, going absolutely nuts. I made an order to DoorDash, and I got a little extra food just so I can, let it last a few days through the inconvenience of one day maybe not having my regular meal. But I have a feeling it's all, big ado about nothing, as Shakespeare would say. Much ado about nothing. Sorry, let me get it straight. Have you ever noticed how many Shakespearean phrases are in our daily language? We just don't realize there's a ton of them. Mark, you look like you're chomping at the bit.
Where the 6 beef and cheddars are that you got from DoorDash.
I can go to Arby's. I'm not afraid to do that. They know me there. Hey, Chris, how you doing? Chuck, the owner of Arby's. Arby's is good. So anyhow, other than that interesting fact. Weather coverage. Okay, it's weird. It's like it's not an exact science, but boy, they miss a lot. It's like they were talking 2 days ago about the worst storm in the history of man since the Ice Age. This bomb cyclone that was coming through, nor'easter, and that we were supposed to get 20 inches of snow, run for your lives, and everybody's going to the grocery store to get bumwad and all kinds of, eggs and cheese and whatever else that they eat.
Bumwad?
Toilet paper.
No, that's what we sketch on. If you're an architect, you know what bumwad is. It's a roll of trace paper.
Okay, that too. So maybe they're an architect and they had to stock up on something. So all this stuff, and it's like they just go crazy. And as the storm approaches, they keep downgrading it and downgrading it and downgrading. Hold on a sec. Alexa, how much snow are we getting today?
It's snowing right now. You can expect about 12 inches.
That she hasn't changed her tune. She's still saying 12 inches. But that's a long height from 20 inches, which we were supposed to have. And here, wait a minute, we got to stop for just a second. A special guest has just joined us from the Muppet Show. Dr. John Idelson is here with us right now. John, we're talking about the fact that the weather forecasts seem to be all over the place here on the eastern part of the United States. Some are good, some are bad, and radio is either better or worse in predicting the weather. How do you feel about the weather?
Well, I thought this is where we were doing auditions for the Muppet Show. This is the wrong stage. I'm sorry.
Waka, waka.
Yeah, if you're talking weather, I'm here in Monterey, but I was actually, this was for my babysitting duties. But we have Fleet Numeric, that is the Navy weather service that predicts the weather for one half of the globe.
Really?
And
So how come
Go ahead, Mitch.
I was just going to say, how come the Weather Service gets it so wrong out here in the Mid-Atlantic region? Don't they use the same computer models?
I talked to a number of the people who work there, and they have the supercomputer and all amazing stuff. And as you said, the weather forecasts here in Monterey aren't great. And I said, you guys are good at this. Can't you make it better? He said, oh, yeah, we get it a lot better. We step outside and put our hands like this. And they feel wet, it's raining. It's all relative.
Well, you're the knowledge man. You know how these things are done. But you would think that
I'm not the knowledge man if I'm doing a virtual background on this show. I mean, there are members of my family who will disown me if this sees the light of day. Oh, wait, we're on YouTube.
Yeah, you're going to be seen.
No, we're in trouble.
It's going to be a meme that the father of broadcasting in the Seattle
some
region,
unnamed company.
Monterey.
Some unnamed company.
Okay,
luckily,
I got
you don't have a lower third. They have no. That's the kid who was in the exam room and all the exam papers, and the professor was looking at him and walking up and down. He says, I think you were cheating. He said, what do you mean? I said, yeah, it looks like it. And the kid sticks the notebook, his blue book in the middle of the pile of papers. Do you know who I am? He says, no. He said, bye.
Oh, that's good. So we've covered a lot.
My timing's a little off. I've been out of the classroom for many, many years. I've formally retired from university teaching back in 2008. I've done workshops and things like that. But there's, as you know, in the DJ business, it's not the same if you don't do it on a regular basis every day, rain or come shine.
I would say I'm rusty. I mean, I've done, I'm a little rusty, but I'm not out of it. And yet I find myself being the last angry DJ because I feel I've been marginalized somewhere along the line. It's a little bit of ageism, I think, that's taking effect.
Well, there's a lot of ageism, but the fact that you don't realize you're out of it is one of the first signs. That's what my kids have told me.
First signs of what, John?
Signs of what?
Of being out of it.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll take that. So maybe we're trying to recreate it here by complaining about things or talking about stuff. But where do you get your information? If you want up-to-the-minute weather forecast, do you take the time to go on the internet and dig it out, or do you just happen to have the radio on in the background? And if it's a big storm, that's news, and they should be covering that. Do you prefer that and that coverage?
Well, I typically go to my iPhone and look at the various weather apps, but I also have one of those receivers that lets you hear from aircraft that are flying. And so it's flight aware. and FlightAware is constantly giving what the conditions are at multiple airports. So part of the problem with all these things is where are you in relation to where the device thinks you are when it tells you what the weather is? And every once in a while, my devices think I'm on New York when I'm really sitting here in beautiful Monterey. I looked at my weather app a couple days ago and said, it can't be that hot. And then I realized, no, I really wasn't in Texas. But for us here, we have power issues. Some of these heavy rainstorms and other things have really impacted power. So I really want to know what's happening weather-wise because I have backup batteries. And the last major outage we had was over 4 days we were without power. And I thought I had no problems because I have solar cells. But because of the way the charging and stuff worked, even though the sun came tomorrow, the sun comes out tomorrow. The sun came out. The solar cells couldn't drive the batteries to drive the house because it had no power from PG&E, and that's how it got its proper signals and phasing. So I do worry about the weather.
Yeah. Do you think that we would survive if something happened to all our electric grid and we no longer had power? We depend on it so much that how would we survive? I mean, I know they had these radios that you can crank them every half hour. It needs a recrank. It'll pick up stations. If your internet goes out and your power goes out, how do we survive? It's like, do people realize how helpless you are without that infrastructure going?
Well, it's more than power. It's the whole supply chain. But we do have some experiences of what it's like. You are on the East Coast with the great New York blackout. I don't remember the day or year. Somebody go to YouTube or Google. But
that was like 40 years ago.
Oh, it wasn't that long ago.
I don't know.
That was a major outage of the northern part of the country. Primarily, they talk about New York, but it actually went all the way from Ohio to New York. And did it make it all the way down to Delaware? Do you know, Mitch?
No, it didn't go that far. In fact, speaking of New York, let me check out. This is Times Square. And it seems like the power is working in Times Square, and it's snowing. Not too bad. But that's how I check the weather forecast. I just go over and see what's going on.
John, are you talking about the
1977?
Yeah, I was just going to say 77.
There you go.
77. Yeah, I think that's probably when it was.
That's what Wikipedia says.
There was also
77.
one in 2003.
Right, but that one was not as widespread.
Right, 77 was the big one.
Yeah.
There you go.
And
so we do, yeah, you were saying.
I was going to say, there are lots of stories about that. And a lot of people survived, and people actually had to sit down and light candles and talk. But there were a lot of systems that showed that they really weren't prepared for such a thing. The number of people trapped in elevators for a long time and things like that. So a lot of the redundancy and backup systems that buildings have now came out of that major shortage or outage. I'm going to get rid of the Muffets. Even I can't stand the...
I just think it's great. You're talking about highly technical and important issues, and there's Kermit and the Fonzie. What's the bear's name? Fonzie the bear.
So I don't know.
I'm thinking, hey,
I must admit, they are the reference points I go for all information I need.
You know where I'd like to be? That if the apocalypse comes and the zombie apocalypse comes, I want to move in with the Amish people. I think they're the ones only prepared to deal with no power, no automation, no computers, nothing. They kind of live on the edge. There might be some downside, but I can't figure it out. So maybe there should be a reality show about living the Amish lifestyle. I'd have a guest on, but I think they would find this program to be an Amish nightmare. Too technical in nature. What are you going to do? All right, we're going to jump to another subject here, John. This is my weekly program where we call it Mitch's Beef of the Week. Usually brought to you by Arby's, but Arby's is holding out on me, so maybe it's the impending weather forecast, and we can sprinkle that off the screen. I get to beef about something that makes no sense. Feel free to comment on it. My first beef here. why do radio people have problems with automated prompting? And what I mean by that is anytime I'm calling the bank and they tell me to repeat my account number or say yes or no or, quickly describe my problem, is because I'm so precise in the way I speak. And I like to think that I, speak clearly and understandably. It always fails. Like if I read a sequence of numbers that says, we did not receive that, please repeat it. Is it something to do with radio people that can't get prompts right, or they're not tuned for people that are that precise in their pronunciation? Mark is shaking his head. Mark, are you running the same problem?
It's terrible technology. That's all it is. Everybody's having that same problem.
It's picking on me. That's what I'm trying to say.
No,
is it like the better I do at saying a sequence of numbers, and I even go so far as to say, 0, 9er, 2, 3, whatever,
Well,
and they'll come back and say,
wrong.
what's 9er?
Right, exactly.
And if I'm talking to my friends,
keypad.
yeah, even that kind of screws up. And I think that they're picking on radio people with precise diction and pronunciation ability. It freaks out the AI or the computer that's doing it. So that's one of my beefs. I just don't know why that is, but it's going on. So let me jump to another beef. Oh, this is a good one. Alex, you're going to like this one. Why do you have problems with properly mixed surround sound on TV shows like HBO's Real Time with Bill Maher? Come on, it's the 21st century. And what I'm saying is I watched it Friday. And the audio, and if you go to YouTube, not YouTube, if you go to HBO Max right now and you play Real Time, it's going to come out of the left rear speaker only.
Oh, that's
and
not
that
good.
is just weird and stupid that they would allow
Was it
that
just
to continue.
was it just that program, or was it? Did you try something else? Watching something else like a movie?
I tried other things. I went to other regular programming, and it was just that show. And I've had that happen a few times. The other thing they do is that they play their opening theme song at half the volume of the show, so you're in there adjusting your volume to get it right.
That's horrible.
It's just inexcusable that a program that cost millions of dollars to do on a series of HBO, come on, it's the 21st century. Why do we have this problem still? And guess what? Mixing for sporting events, they're doing the same thing. I'm talking major sporting events where they get the audio screwed up. But a show like HBO on the left rear speaker only, not down, not low, only behind me on the left rear speaker. I'm like, what? What the hell's going on here?
My question is, I don't know, is that something to do with what the show is doing, or is that something on HBO's end that they messed up? We don't know where in the chain that problem is. But look, even the best shows in the world with the best crews, the biggest budgets, stuff breaks, things go wrong. You don't always have 100% flawless show. That's just the reality. And especially if it's live.
Over and over.
Live is hard. If they're doing it over and over, then there's something. Then you got to start knocking on doors and asking some serious questions. But that's not good. My question to you, Mitch: do you what is processing the audio for? Do you have some kind of AV multi-channel receiver?
That's where I was going to go there.
I do indeed.
Yeah, go ahead.
Almost all the problems that I've had with that was not caused at the source end, but TVs that got confused. So I had that happen with no-name Sony and a LG, and the one was just horrible, and I just couldn't figure out what was going on. And it was, again, the announcers couldn't be heard, things were on the wrong side. Went into my other room where I had an LG, and it sounded pristine.
So in other words, what you're saying, John, is have you tried turning it off and on again? That's what you're saying.
Yeah, the whack to the side of it. No, that Sony that I had consistently decoded things wrong. I'm sure there was
I've seen it happen. Yeah.
Undocumented feature.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I did that, and I checked it on both of my TVs. They're Sony's. One is the Sony upstairs, which is it's part of the the Android operating system, and it was screwed up and the surround was messed up. So I went down into my main media center where I've got an expensive Pioneer Elite, and I can see the faux 5.1 diagram, and it shows me what speakers are active. It was showing the left rear speaker as the source for the audio. So it was doing it. It was repeatable. I don't even know if they took it down. It may still be up there. So if you get a chance, check out HBO Real Time with Bill Maher and see if you can repeat the same issue.
We usually talk about what our audio chain is. So you told me where the amplifier receiver was, but that receiver wasn't receiving the television signal. Do you have a cable box? What got it into your system? Were you doing it?
I use an Apple TV.
Okay, Apple TV usually doesn't mess things up.
And I went into my Pioneer, and it decodes the digital audio stream that comes out of the Apple TV. And it was showing that it confirmed what I already found out on a different TV in another room, which didn't have any external stuff. It was built into the TV. And so, immediately when you go to another channel or listen to another movie or some other service, whether it's on HBO Max or otherwise, it was working fine. It sounded perfect. So it's definitely somebody screwed up on the encoding cycle over at the Bill Maher show. I think that's what happened.
It's conceivable. We can't rule that out as an issue. But I want to point out one other thing too. For those that don't know, because I've run into this, I'm sure John has run into this. There's a technology, and it's usually turned on by default on devices, everything from AV receivers that are processing audio and video to televisions to Blu-ray players to your gaming console. It's called CEC, Consumer Electronic Control. And oftentimes I find that this feature does not work the way you want it to. In fact, I often end up turning it off on devices. And what that feature will do is, for example, it can control both the audio and video of other devices. So, for example, like my Apple TV with CEC on, if I hit the power button, I can have it turn off my TV and I can have it turn off my AV receiver, right? And vice versa, have it fire on and turn on. It'll control other devices, turn those devices either on or off. But sometimes it gets messed up and it'll turn one thing on but not the other thing. And it's just like most of the time I find that these automated technologies that have to turn off and on devices just don't work 100% flawlessly, and they're more trouble than it's worth. Just like another perfect example, Apple's AirPods. This multi-device switching thing where sometimes I'll be listening to audio on my phone and suddenly my AirPods reconnect to my MacBook and I lose the audio. It's like, why did you just do that? I'm holding the device. I'm playing back audio. Why did you think it was a good idea to go to that other device that's 25 feet away from me now? So this stuff doesn't work perfectly.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think it's operator error. I hope this person that's responsible for doing this over and over again, by the way, needs to be fired so he can take a job at NORAD and look out for the U.S.'s security.
So Rich, I'll give you one thing to check.
Go ahead.
On your TV, do you have an ARC, or it might be listed EARC?
Audio return channel.
I do.
Audio return channel. So you might try not using that input and see if life gets better.
Like I said, the fact that I could reproduce it on other TV sets in my house that have nothing to do with any of that extra gadgetry confirms that it's a problem. And somebody right now, I don't know if they fixed it. Maybe it's still up that way but check it. Check Friday's episode of Real Time with Bill Maher and tell me if you're not, because first I thought you sometimes get water in your ear and you're sitting there wondering what's going on here. And I was like doing that last night. My dog was looking at me funny because I was banging my head, and it was like the fake stereo surround was doing weird things. And then when I went downstairs and I saw it coming out of the left rear speaker, I said, somebody screwed up again. So there you go. And it makes it unlistenable. So
and a couple of comments too in the YouTube chat. Vic Hernandez said that speaking of real time with Bill Maher, he hates the woo guy in the audience. Dude is annoying. And then also commenting on CEC technology, he just said arg. So apparently he has run into some CEC control issues as well. Unsurprisingly.
Yeah, hey Vic. By the way, since you're on the subject, it said woo. The guy that does that woo. It's like, why don't they just not let him in to the audience? And the other thing that Bill Maher does that I don't know if he even realizes, he just goes every once in a while in the middle of a question. I don't think anybody has the guts to tell him that, Bill, don't do that. That's ridiculous.
You're not going to tell the host of the show is making millions of dollars.
I guarantee you, if I started going, then I'd hear it from you and
I would say something 100%.
Yeah, immediately you'd be on my case. So anyhow, I mean, with all this
since
technology,
it is a Bill Maher show, you don't know whether it's going to be coming out of the left speaker or the right speaker, but it's always going to be in the back.
I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. Nice comeback, John. Excellent. So those are my beefs of the week. Just had to get them in there. I appreciate you putting up with them, and I'm hoping that somebody will be actually check and verify my results, because I think that's really important. A lot of shows are fine, but in the world we live in right now, there's so much technology involved and so many steps. In the old days, John, when we used to finish a TV show, we cut it to tape. It was stereo. And we were just happy to have both channels working, even if it was dual mono. And nowadays you've got, Dolby 5.1, Atmos, all the other, various flavors of surround. And I just don't understand. I don't need to have all that surround. And I don't want to hear that woo guy screaming from behind me when I'm watching Bill Maher. I just want to hear the sound without him going every few seconds. It's ridiculous. So that's our show. We appreciate you all being here. John, thanks for skipping in and giving us your input. I need to jump over to Alex so he can tell us how can people check to see if Bill Maher is still screwed up on HBO, or how do you just reach out and tell us what you like about the show or what you want to do next week?
Thank you, Mitch. If you like the show, there's a few different ways that you can support us. You can like and subscribe everywhere. If you are watching on YouTube, do make sure you do that. Of course, share the show with a friend. If you'd like to support us monetarily, you can do that by going to patreon.com/thelastangry.dj. That's patreon.com/thelastangry.dj. If you'd like to be here live, like many of you are right now, we broadcast the show at 2 p.m. Pacific, that's 5 p.m. Eastern, every Sunday afternoon. This show is also available in audio format as a podcast if you'd like to play it later on demand, which is totally fine by us. Just listen to it however you like. We usually put that out the next day on Monday, so look out for it in your podcast feed. Speaking of podcasts, you can find the show on Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon Alexa, iHeartRadio, and actually pretty much everywhere you can find the show. And last but not least, thanks to the fine folks at Boink Software for letting us use Mimo Live, the production tool we're using today, to broadcast this show in high resolution. We sincerely appreciate it. We could not do this show without Mimo Live. And if you are looking for a production tool to do your own podcast or YouTube show, you should sincerely have a look at what those guys have to offer. And personal shout out to Oliver Breidenbach, who really helped us at the beginning when we launched this show. What is it? A little over 2 years ago now. He was instrumental in really getting us up and running. So thank you, Oliver and Boink Software. Of course, other thing you can do is join us on Discord, our Discord community. If you pull out your phone, grab the camera app and point it to this QR code that's hovering here at the lower left-hand corner. That will invite you into our Discord server. We have all sorts of channels broken up into different topics. We can chat about the show, guests you want to see on the show, topics you want us to talk about. We can talk about movies, industry stuff, whatever you want to talk about. That's a great place to be. I'll leave that up on the screen for just a few minutes, and I think that pretty much covers it. So, back to you, Mitch.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate that. And John, do you have any final comments you'd like to make about being a surprise guest on today's show?
Well, I want to thank you for letting me crash the show, and thanks to Oliver, because I hope I didn't embarrass his software by being on it. But this should prove that they'll let anyone on this show. but it's a lot of fun. So guys, thank you for letting me break into it. This is new for me in we're in 2020, whatever year we're in. Take it away, Mitch.
Yeah, just make sure you have the surround mix correct there. Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Good to have you here. And you're welcome back anytime at any time on the show. And Mark, what did you learn today on today's program, other than the snow is coming down and you got to go out there and sweep that snow off the satellite dishes?
Shovel the sidewalk. Yes. Well, I thought Alex did a great job explaining how CDs work with the frequencies, and he even pulled out an incredible piece of software to draw on and show us
MS Paint.
just exactly how the frequencies work.
Yeah, what's old is new again. That's the good thing about it. And thank you, Alex, for doing that. We have to get you a telestrator. We get what is it? Michael Fisher has a presentation program. John, what is that?
I'm going to be using the one that Alex Lindsay built called Broadboard.
Alex has one, but
I bought it.
There is a program called QCam Presenter that has a component you could get independently called Video Pencil, and it lets you take your iPad, get the source of whatever you're putting into your Zoom meeting, and then draw on top of it. It's a lot of fun.
There you go. Appreciate the input there. And we thank you all for being here. If you're in the Mid-Atlantic region, make sure you're ready for the snow. It's going to get bad tonight before it gets a lot worse. And I'm looking over in New York, and well, it doesn't seem to be snowing too much over there. So Times Square is clear for now, and we are clear too. So thanks again for enjoying show number 103. We'll be back again next week, same time, same channel. Take care of yourselves.
Swagger down the street with your red lips and funky beat. You better hold your head up to the sky. I'm gonna roll with you till the day I die.